You're watching the Luca Rosano Show. Here's your host, Luca Rosano.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Luca Rosano Show. As you can tell, guys, I got a very special guest. He's an educator, he's a podcaster, he's a businessman. This guy pretty much does it all, and he's on the show as we're going to talk about some really cool stuff. To, thanks so much for being here,
Thanks,
man.
Luca. I'm pumped to be here, and I used Perel, so we're good.
Nobody wants to shake hands
That's
anymore.
it, man.
So, To, before we get into it, I want to talk to you about the Toronto Raptors. Before we get to that portion of the show, I want to talk to you about this great facility that you got here. Guys, we're located 8301 Keele Street. Come check us out, VAUGHAN Sportsplex 2. This is surely becoming a basketball facility, and I say that because recently you put in those 3-on-3 basketball courts that have been a hit. I mean, I come here, guys, it's busy, everybody's using these courts. What was your inspiration behind that to put those 3-on-3 courts in this facility?
So I think the obvious answer is the Raptors' success and them winning the championship last year. You know, it was Kawhi mania last year, and people kept calling and saying, you got basketball courts, you got basketball courts. You know, in talking to you and you covering the Raptors and being really the premier podcast for the Raptors here in Toronto, you do an amazing job with it. And really, you could see your YouTube numbers are off the charts. So that's amazing. Kudos to you, man. But I think the success of the Raptors and the demand, it's supply and demand, it's simple economics. People are demanding more basketball facilities. There aren't enough basketball facilities. There aren't facilities like this facility, like VAUGHAN Sportsplex 2, where we can house all of this multi-sport space. And this is truly multi-sport, so we've got everything here. Now we've got basketball, we've got soccer, lacrosse, volleyball, we've got it all, baseball. So the success of these 3-on-3 courts has really inspired us now to go on to bigger and better things. But really the Raptors are the reason why you see these 3-on-3 courts here.
VAUGHAN Sportsplex 2, guys, of course, a proud sponsor of the show, and it makes me happy to know that Toad does have a major announcement that he did tell me off camera, and he's about to tell you, the viewers watching. So what is the major announcement you have for VAUGHAN Sportsplex 2 as it pertains to the great sport of basketball?
So, Luca, as you know, I'm a big thinker, a big dreamer, and when I saw the success of the 3-on-3 courts and the demand for basketball in Vaughan and York region, I said, we got to go big or we got to go home. So our big announcement is that for September of 2020, we are going to have 3 official-sized FIBA courts, hardwood courts, the same courts that you see at the Scotiabank Arena.
Wow.
Will be here at VAUGHAN Sportsplex 2. We're going to be the premier basketball facility here in York region.
Wow.
So, guys, get ready, September 2020. It's a big endeavor. It's a big financial commitment to install these courts. People have no idea how expensive official NBA FIBA courts are being installed by the same company that does the Raptors courts. Like, it is an insane amount of money, but we are doing it for the people, for the basketball fans, for the rec player, for the rep player, for the kid who's dreaming about playing on Team Canada or the NBA one day. This is going to be the mecca of basketball starting September 2020.
You got me all giddy. I think I got to go start training because I want that 10-day
That's it.
contract.
And, you know, we're going to run programs for adults. We're going to have memberships so you can play either in leagues or you can come at free time. Like, we've got exciting things happening, and we're going to release that information slowly as we get closer to the date of September 2020.
So you've obviously thought this through. Take me through the development and growth of basketball as it pertains not only to the country but to the city. You grew up, the Raptors were pretty much non-existent. Basketball popularity was pretty much non-existent. Now we're in 2020. I would say basketball is right there. And in your opinion, do you think basketball will overtake a sport like hockey
as
in terms
a
of
rec
popularity?
sport? It is definitely going to take over. I think soccer and basketball, 1 and 2. I think it's a sport that's easily accessible to all kids. Really, what do you need to play basketball? A pair of sneakers and the will to play and the will to have fun. And that's what kids enjoy, and that's how you develop kids. You get them in, it's easy to get them on a court, it's easy for them to have fun, it's easy to teach them to dribble a ball, and then, you know what, kids can either play purely for recreation purposes, or if they're serious and they want to develop, now they've got really a pathway to the NBA. You've got a real serious pathway. And what a lot of people don't know is obviously Canadian was invented by, Canadians invented basketball,
exactly.
right? Naismith invented basketball. It's a Canadian sport. So this is a real breeding ground now, and I think we had at the NBA All-Star game, how many Canadians were on the international team?
Oh, yeah.
I think 7 players were Canadians.
Yeah.
We're a real hub. We're a hub for basketball. You know, so I think, you know, with the onset of all the success that the Canadians have had, I think basketball is about to explode. This is the time for basketball in Canada. In 1995-96, when they announced the Raptors, you know, people were humming and hawing and saying, oh, I don't know if it's going to make it. I don't know if it'll do well. Well, guess what? You know what? 25 years later, after Vince Carter mania, after an NBA championship, I think basketball's here to stay. It cemented itself here in the city.
And let's talk about that championship. You accredit the growth a lot to the fact that the Raptors not only winning the championship, but if you look at the past decade, they have been a constant in terms of playoff success, a winning culture. That's got to help, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I think, you know what, they've had good management in the past. They had Colangelo as a GM. Now they've got a fantastic GM.
No one's ever going to be Masai for what he's done.
I think he's a mastermind, and that's the type of management you need. Guys with vision, willing to take risks. Hey, taking Kawhi on was a massive risk. It was like putting all your chips on the table. And you know what? They pulled it off. And no risk, no reward. He's got that mentality. I think the Raptors could actually do it again. I think they could repeat. Wow. There's a possibility, man. And you know what? Like, this is a basketball city now. The fans are behind them. And you don't see this kind of fan base in other cities. You travel to other cities, it's very lackluster. Toronto is basketball city, ground floor. It is amazing right now. And I'm so happy to be part of it.
So you touched on the fans there. That's actually going to segue me. I want to get your thoughts on this. I mean, I don't really want to talk about it, but at the same time, the entire news is talking about it, the entire world is talking about it. That is the coronavirus. I want to just get your take on it. I said in a video yesterday, you know, the NBA could be headed in a direction where we play these games with no fans or we postpone the season. What are your thoughts on this pandemic, which is now being classified as a pandemic, and how do you think that's going to affect the game with no fans in the stands?
Yeah, obviously, you know, basketball is a spectator sport. You always have fans cheering on your team, and I think with our Raptors run last year, without the fans, I don't know if we could have went all the way.
I don't think so.
Right?
That's,
you know, like it's just incredible, the energy and the spirit the fans bring to a team. Anyone who's played sports and sees fans cheering for them knows the energy that feeds off of that energy from the fans. So it will not be the same. But I think the NBA is going to take direction from leagues like Serie A in Italy, who started with no fans in the stands, but they played games, and now they've completely postponed the season. It's a real epidemic, obviously. If this continues to spread, I think you're going to see the postponement of the NBA season, which will be a shame because obviously as you start getting into playoffs, you don't want to interrupt that rhythm because the rhythm is extremely important. And if you take a month off, it's like preseason again, man. You're starting all over. So I definitely don't want to see that, but I think health and safety takes priority. It trumps everything else. They've got to get a handle on this coronavirus. I think in a year's time, things will be a lot different. I think they're saying that it'll take at least a year for a vaccine to come to market.
That's a long time,
It's a super long time, man. They came up with the Ebola vaccine in about 6 months, but they think this one's going to take a year. So that could literally halt everything. A year is a very long time to wait for things to resume and to get back to some sense of normality. So I think, though, that all these leagues are going to be super cautious. They're going to be liable if something happens, so they don't want to take the risk. You will not see fans in the stands, you mark my words, and then possibly there could be a pause in the league.
Wow, that's some big stuff, guys. And so I want to ask you just on that, as a guy who runs a sports business, how fearful are you of this coronavirus being huge here in Canada? Because right now, these other countries, see what's happening in Italy.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
It's problematic for any kind of business, whether you're a sports business, a supermarket, a bar, a restaurant. All these businesses are going to be in peril. It's a serious problem. But the one caveat that I would say is people need not panic. And I think that's starting to happen. When you see all the toilet paper sold out at Costco or Walmart, you know that people are freaking out, or they're buying cases of water. The water's not being poisoned. We all have taps. You turn on your tap, you got water.
Yeah.
But people are not using common sense. People need to calm down and realize that although this is a pandemic, it's a serious problem. There have been other pandemics that we've survived throughout the history of the world. Malaria killed 450,000 people. But things as bad as that is, and that's horrible, 500,000 people almost being killed because of this disease, life goes on. Second World War, 75 million people lost their lives. But at some point, life resumes.
Yeah.
And I think This will pass just like all these other things. There will be other pandemics in the future, but this is the law of nature. Sometimes stuff like this happens. We get through it. I think the human race is strong. We've survived 2 world wars and a bunch of other things, massive economic downturns. We'll survive this too. Just people need to relax. Don't panic. At the end of the day, they're saying really it only affects the elderly who are vulnerable, who have, you know, some kind of compromised health. So young people, for the most part, are safe. But I think we take our lead from public health, follow their instructions. I think this will pass.
So guys, you heard it from the man himself. Take it easy, relax. This is gonna pass. Just go back to what you're doing.
That's it. That's
Tony,
it.
I want to ask you now.
And wash your hands.
Yeah.
Kids, don't piss on your hands and walk away. Make sure that when you piss on your hands, you wash them.
Don't you dare do that.
Okay?
Tony, I want to ask you, and guys, I like to talk to Tony about business stuff because he is one of the biggest business minds in Vaughan, in Toronto, and you're truly somebody I can look up to in that sense.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so I want to ask you just to that front, with the Raptors and kind of what they do on a business standpoint, what do you think the Raptors do better than the other MLSE teams? So that'd be obviously the Leafs, the Jays, TFC. What do you think separates the Raptors as becoming one of the premier teams, not only within MLSE, but in the world? I mean, they're now ranked, I believe it's 10th in terms of value that this organization has.
So it's 2 things. Number 1, marketing. They're a marketing machine. Number 2, scouting. They scout the right players. But in terms of marketing, I'll give you an example. Actually, this could be a case study. You got a guy like Nav, the superfan. Nav, the superfan, has more followers than most NBA players.
That's
Nav,
wild.
the superfan, is an NBA ambassador. He's a Canada basketball ambassador. He is an amazing marketer of the game. He is an icon. When you see him on the court, most people are looking at Nav rather than the game. And they're looking for his reaction after a 3-point shot. So what they do is they know how to nurture creativity. They market the game really well. They get to the masses. They target communities. And they know that basketball is the everyman sport. It is the everyman sport where, you know what, any kid from any neighborhood could be a success if they put their mind to it. And they sell a dream. They're selling a dream to kids. They're selling a dream to adults. They're selling a dream to a city. And the city's bought into that dream. And once you buy into a dream, the sky's the limit, and that's what's happened. And they're scouting. You know what? They've got a great scouting system. I think from top to bottom, they're a really well-managed and well-oiled machine. So, you know, I think you do tons of case studies on the success of the Raptors. Kudos to the management team. They are A++ in all aspects.
Yeah, that's a good point, too, with player development. I was actually at a Raptors 905 event the other day, and they showed a video up on screen. A lot of the guys that used to play for the 905 just 3-4 short years ago, they were key contributors on our championship team. Van Vliet, Siakam. So it's crazy that the Raptors have created something where now other teams are going to look to as the model of success.
Absolutely. Like some of those guys didn't even play college ball.
Undrafted gems.
Undrafted. So what does that take? Phenomenal scouting. The Raptors have it.
And what you also said is very, very true, where the Raptors have a guy like Nav. And you look at the other Toronto teams, they don't really have an ambassador, somebody to hype them up, somebody with a huge global presence to put them on a pedestal. And the Raptors have two.
I agree.
Not only Nav, but they got Drake.
I agree. Absolutely. So, again, genius marketing. You know, you've got a guy, probably the most famous rapper in the world, Drake. Everyone follows him. And guess what? By default, you're following the Raptors.
Yeah.
So, again, genius marketing. You can't beat that. What an amazing marketing team that they have. And you go to a game, it's a real fan experience. Not like the Leafs. And you know, I'm not downplaying the Leafs, but it's very corporate. It's boring at times now. And it's not an atmosphere where you want to bring your family and kids. The Raptors games definitely are.
I know you're a big soccer fan, too.
Yeah.
Is the Raptors, is that field the best game experience in your opinion?
Yeah, the Raptors experience is the best game time experience. The TFC is pale in comparison to the Raptors. They're so above and beyond. And it's teams, right? These organizations are run by teams, and they have different management teams. And the Raptors are just killing it, man. They are just killing it. And you see the success, and they feed off of that success, whereas TFC, unfortunately, the Argos, and some of these other teams, like, listen, the Leafs, man, you go there, it's not a real fan experience. They need to work on that. Like, you know, I know we've got the coronavirus happening now, but if you've got 5,000 empty seats, donate them. Donate them to kids. Fill the seats. Build their fan base. Why aren't they doing that? Go to every school in the city and hand out tickets and say, you know what, kid? Come and experience a game. Right? And that's what they need to be doing, down and dirty. One of the big problems, and I'll be honest with you because I know a little bit about the organization, and it's not a shot at them, but they've got a lot of interns with a lot of responsibility. And unfortunately, they don't have the experience and the management skills to do what it takes. And they're also fearful. I see them, I talk to these guys, these ticket sales guys and these sales reps, and they're afraid. They're afraid of their own shadows. You have to go out there and you have to push, you have to make a dent, you have to make an impact. They've got to be reaching out to their managers and saying, hey, here's what we need to do to grow the fan base. That's not happening. It's a very narrow scope, I find, with TFC and with, the Argos and some of these other franchises.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And I do want to be the nav of TFC. I'm just thinking of an idea. I'm a season ticket holder for TFC. I've been so since day one. Obviously, I'm not Sikh. I don't have a turban, but I'm Italian, and I got an idea to be the next nav of TFC.
I can see you in that role. So, you might be onto something.
Listen,
here.
I've got it. The problem is, I'm so busy with everything that I do. I got multiple businesses. I've got a real estate company. I've got the Sportsplex. I've got another big announcement for another sports venture. I've just got so much on the go.
I told you,
but I'd love to be the super fan of TFC.
So, what's your opinion on Drake, going back to Raptors ambassadors and what they mean to the team? You find him annoying at times, or do you love his shenanigans that this guy is chirping the other team's best player? He's getting under the skin of Giannis Antetokounmpo to the point where the first question asked in the presser is, did Drake get under your skin?
Listen, Luca, you're a wrestling fan. You remember the WWF before it became WWE?
Of course.
You remember the promos, Jack Tunney, and guys would come out and Hulkamania, and they would get under your skin. That's what Drake is doing, and that is marketing. That's guerrilla marketing at its best. That is business marketing 101. They don't teach that in school, but you know what? Drake's got it. The Raptors got it. They understand it. They play the media like a fiddle, and this is why I'm telling you, it's got to be an NBA case study. You know what? Drake, the Raptors, Nav, what a combination. It's like the Holy Trinity. The Raptors, Nav, and Drake, man. It is unbelievable. It's a marketing machine, and I love it.
So we've said many times on this show, or actually on your show, that one day you're going to buy maybe Toronto FC. Now,
man, it's still my dream. I know people think I'm nuts. I really don't give a shit what they think.
But I want to propose something to you. How likely is it that we can one day buy the Raptors? Now, just to put in perspective, the Raptors back in the day were bought at $125 million US. Now they are worth $2.1 billion, which of course skyrocketed post-championship. Can we pull this off? Can we get some investors? Can we own the Raptors? Can we take our teams away from MLSC? How far-fetched?
I don't know what the EBITDA is, the earnings for the Raptors are, but we're talking billions of dollars. But you know what? Nothing's impossible. Nothing is impossible.
That's what I want to hear.
And I really firmly believe that. And people think, you know what? No, it's impossible. Can't happen. You put your mind to something. You put the right group of people together. You can make anything happen. So listen, the bigger your dream, the more you're going to achieve. The smaller your dreams, the less you achieve. So you know what? If you're going to dream, you might as well dream as big as you possibly can. Let's do it. Let's buy the Raptors if we can. Let's make it a goal of ours. Let's network with people. And I know you use Perel too, so we're good. We're going to make it. Let's do it, buddy.
You heard it, guys. Once we buy TFC, or once Tony buys TFC, we're then going to gun for the Toronto Raptors. One of my all-time favorite teams, obviously, and I talk about them a lot on this show. Okay, To, that was amazing content. Before we get into a special segment I love to do all my guests, tell the camera right now, what is your prediction for the Toronto Raptors this season? Is this team getting back to an NBA Finals?
Yeah, they're definitely getting back to the finals. It's hard to predict if they're going to repeat, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Raptors repeat in 2020. You heard it here first. The Raptors repeat in 2020 without Kawhi. You'll see it happen.
And
Luca.
people call me optimistic of this team.
You'll see it happen.
He just called the Raptors repeating.
You gotta believe, man.
Without Kawhi.
Go ask Nav what he thinks. The Raptors repeat 2020.
Oh, man. That's why I love talking to this guy. To, let's switch gears now to the final segment I do, like I said, with all my guests. Rapid fire questions.
Let's
I got
do it, man.
some good questions for you. I'm excited to hear your answers. Ready for this?
I'm ready, man. Anytime.
Okay. First rapid fire question I got for you here. Who's the greatest athlete of all time?
Basketball-wise, I'm going to say Michael Jordan.
Of all time. Could be any sport. In your opinion, who is the great, because you've seen athletes come from all walks of life, who is the greatest athlete of all time to grace planet Earth?
Wow, that's a tough one because every sport has its own uniqueness. So I could probably tell you for each and every sport, but I think if I had to say like a global ambassador for world sports that has more reach than anyone, and if you mention his name, the world knows it, I'm going to say Pelé. Pelé is the greatest athlete of all time. Maybe some young kids don't know who he is, but you go anywhere in the world, in any continent, Africa, South Africa, the Arctic, Antarctica, North America, doesn't matter. Everyone knows who Pelé is. So I'm going to go with Pelé, the golden child of Brazil.
Go Google Pelé for those of you who don't know.
P-E-L-E, Pelé, the greatest of all time.
Next question. Favorite basketball player of all time?
I'm going to go with Michael Jordan again. I saw him play, and you know what? Just unbelievable. There's no words for him. There's a lot of great players. Listen, you know, Toronto, you can say Vince Carter. You know, Kawhi Leonard obviously did amazing. But I'm going to say of all time, Michael Jordan.
If you could play for any pro team, who would it be and why? A young toe, back in his 20s.
Listen, I can't jump. This white man cannot jump. But I would have loved to play for the Chicago Bulls during the Jordan era. Scottie Pippen.
With that music.
You got it, man. Rodman. You know what? I'll never forget. I remember when they played the USA Olympics, the Dream Team. I think it was 1988 Olympics, man. I cannot forget that. It was a real dream team. If I could play on any team, it'd definitely be on the Chicago Bulls. The run that Jordan had with Pippen and Rodman and those guys, just unbelievable.
Next question. Sometimes you could get very heated, as we've seen on your show. What's your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve, I'm going to tell you, because it's backed by science, okay? The greatest generation that ever lived was my grandfather's generation, guys who went to war, the Second World War. Those men were men, and they weren't afraid to say they were men. We have become so politically correct in 2020, the men are afraid to say that they are men. So my biggest pet peeve is weak people, not just men. But I think today women are stronger than men. Sorry, guys. And there's scientific research to prove it. They do a strength test with a handshake. Men are 20% weaker today than they were just 30 years ago, based on a grip test. Do your research, you'll figure it out. I'll tell you something. I do a lot of business. Women are strong, fearless businesswomen. They're killers. Women are now the men of 2020. They are killers. And when I say that, I'm not really talking about sex or gender. I'm talking about character of the person. Women have that. Men lack that. I don't know what happened. Something happened along the way where men lost that killer instinct that we had as hunters going back millions of years ago. And what I want to see is men to regain that and women to keep going and surpassing the glass ceiling. And by the glass ceiling, I mean, I want to see them be presidents. I want to see them be CEOs of companies. I want to see my daughters take over the world. And that's my hope. So my big pet peeve is I want to see people be people of character, not focus on other people. Listen, everyone's on social media watching everyone else. You know what? Focus on your dreams. When are you going to focus on your dreams and being the best that you can be and achieving these big, massive goals? I don't see people doing that. I see them watching Netflix. I see them ordering Uber Eats. I see them posting selfies of themselves, but I don't see them achieving big goals. So my pet peeve is dream big and chase those goals.
I feel like running through a wall right now, man.
Let's do it, man.
You got me amped up
Let's do it. And people say, you know, where you get your energy from? What kind of diet are you on? You know what? I'm on the old school Italian diet. Espresso, sambuca, and nonna's biscotti. And that's how we roll.
And this man is double my age. That's crazy. Kudos to you.
Thanks, man.
Next question. This is a fun one. If you could have any three people, dead or alive, over for dinner, who would they be?
Number one is easy. Jesus Christ. For sure, because obviously, you know, one of the mega figures of all history. The number two guy, I wish I could have at the table, because I feel like, you know, he taught me so much through osmosis, and he might have not even known it, but I know it today because it all comes down to him. It was my grandfather, who was a military man, who taught me everything that I know and told me every story of him being in Africa for 7 years and everything he endured. So I'd love to see him back at my dinner table. And the third one, because I'm a big history buff, will be John F. Kennedy.
Nice.
John F. Kennedy impacted the world, you know, during the 1960s, the Cuban Missile Crisis, so much stuff. So a lot of history. I'm a big history buff. So I'd say Jesus Christ, my grandfather, and John F. Kennedy.
Jesus is very important. I'm glad you mentioned him. Last question.
Let's do it.
Best piece of advice you can give to all the people watching right now? one tidbit of advice that they can carry with them for a lifetime?
Live your passion, because time is precious. We only have a limited amount of time. So make sure that you can foresee where you want to be in 5 or 10 years and really chase those goals, because you know what? Life is short, man. Life is short. And at best, the average male in Canada lives 78 years. Not really a long time when you think about it. So don't sit on your hands. Live your dreams. Chase your dreams. Do everything you possibly can to be the best version of yourself that you can be and make a dent in the world. Do something good for the world. And I want to do that. I was thinking today, because I was at an event, at a Black History event, and I heard some amazing speakers, like phenomenal speakers. And it made me contemplate and think, like, is this all that I'm going to do? Is it just about business? Is it just about my personal goals? I've got some big ambitions for the future. And you know, I always said I'd never go into politics. I'm second guessing that. I'm thinking that politics might, and I'm not, obviously don't do it for the money, because politicians don't make any money compared to business people. I want to do it because I want to improve society. I want to improve the city. I want to improve the world where my kids live. I want to make a dent, man. So I'm thinking about it. 2022, get ready. I might
vote for this man. You better vote for this man. So your passion is just unprecedented. I loved having you on the show. We got to do this again, man.
Let's do it, man.
And you know, there's gonna
keep up the great work. You're killing it. You are killing it on social media, your YouTube channel, your coverage of the Raptors. Listen, buddy, you're the next big thing. You mark my words, it's gonna happen.
But the thing is, and I want to make this clear to everybody watching, without the support system, without the supporting cast behind the scenes, there's no me, there's no show, there's no content. So that's why I thank guys like Tony, I thank all my sponsors who believe in a guy like me, who literally started this from his basement, to be able to give you content. So that means the world to me, man. And again,
kudos to you.
You're a big inspiration of mine.
Thanks,
I've been waiting a long time to have you on the show. It finally happened. Guys, go follow this man on Instagram. It'll be the best decision you've ever made in your life. At GTA Sportsplex. He's also doing real estate now. Like I said, he's doing everything. Toe knows everything. Go check out his website. All of his links will be down below in the description box. And guess what? I'm going to be hosting an episode of his podcast on his channel, which will also be linked down below. Toe,
awesome.
This was
Luca,
awesome, man.
thanks, buddy.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves a great weekend. Like, subscribe, share, and I'll catch you all again in the next one.
Stay healthy, people.